Right, so, alright, hello, this is Mungus. So, I was going to write some documentation on how to do this. Unfortunately, I'm lazy, and then it occurred to me that it might be very unintuitive for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience messing around with Editor or with ARMA in general, someone like me, to simply read or be explained how to do something like this. So I think some visual aid might be useful. Also, I haven't made a video in a while, so yeah, I'm just going to do this at some point. So the map I'm on right now is going to be a map that I will be uploading to the file browser, or sorry, the Google Drive that all the mission devs have access to. That will be this map, this specific map. So the purpose of this map is to basically have everything, well, at least some of the things that you'll need to do missions. So over here are and I recommend you make a custom composition of this. I'll explain that in a second. So these are the modules that you'll need. This is the respawn system. I honestly don't know what that really does too much, but I keep it in because I don't want to get rid of it, and I'm lazy. I don't want to test it. Captives allows you to take friendlies captive. Very easy. Zeus settings essentially will allow Zeuses to be able to announce themselves to other Zeuses when they become Zeus, or announce themselves to everyone when they become Zeus, so that you can have some sort of idea of who is Zeusing, and if someone is in the Zeus slot who shouldn't be there, they can be called out on it by everyone on the server and removed by someone who has admin. I believe this tab also, yeah, so that's funny. It basically adds object security. So when someone's promoted to Zeus, it adds all the objects that have been spawned by Zeus so far to their overview. So that's very useful. These are the Game Master modules. These allow for the Zeuses as designated up there when the players spawn as Zeuses in the Zeus slots. There can be a whitelist added to these. So far, we haven't had any major abuses of the Zeus slots that haven't been resolved in other ways. So if there's a major problem in the future where we have to implement a whitelist, that is possible through this kind of thing. Advanced Fatigue. This basically is kind of the same as the respawn module. I mean, it used to serve a function. I'm not really sure what function it serves right now, but I don't want to remove it because I might break something, and I don't really want to test it right now. Medical settings, basically all these detail how medics interact with the world. Don't mess with them. Honestly, most of this, don't mess with any of this unless you really know what you're doing. You've read the documentation. And chances are that all of these modules are a version behind the documentation that you're reading. So, yeah, just don't really mess with any of this without some sort of approval or say Shiv or Coda or someone else in medical asks you, hey, I really want to mess with this setting for this specific mission or for this medical training. Can you do that? And then you can go ahead and do that for them. Over here, the headless clients, you need both parts of these, so don't, forget this part. It's part of the headless client. Leave all this alone. Like, you don't really want to mess with these settings at all. But all these modules are important, so you also, you can only see this if you enter the map, mind you. You have these little things. What are these things? These are basically respawn markers. So these are locked basically to the X and Y axis, meaning they can't be raised to the Z axis. What's that mean? So you know how you can raise this module holding Alt, you can raise this up and down? That is the Z axis. Because these are restricted to the map, you can't raise or lower these onto the Z axis. Well, I mean, maybe you can in a sort of strange way, but I don't think that actually affects anything. Anyway. Yeah, see, you can't, there's only a rotation axis for the Z axis. There's no positional axis for the Z axis here. Right. So what is all this? What's all this translate to? Like, do I have to put all these into the game every time I Zeus? Well, no. There's two ways to do this. Either you can Control C, which is a copy function. Yeah. So you have to Control C to get the copy function. Then you can just paste the modules over like this. Oh, geez. Yeah. So you can either do that. Which I don't recommend because you're liable to lose them that way if you ever lose the map you're working on or whatever. So the other thing I recommend is instead of that, do what I do. right-click all these, save as custom composition, give it a good name, give it a good category. Okay. I can also save the composition and allow it to be downloaded. I may update that in the future, but as of right now, it's a little bit easier for you to be able to, see the modules for yourself and put them down yourself, because I've had errors download, like this thing here is like an error of something I tried to download from the browser and it didn't work out well. Anyway, next section. This is an ammo box. So there's two ways to get an ammo box. The Zeus can either create one, or you can create one on a predefined map, which is the preferred method, I suppose. So that way the Zeus has less things to do at the start of the game and people are less whiny about it. So way you turn a box into an ammo box, bam, that's it, one line of code. Same thing, save it as a custom composition, and then you got it forever. It's good to go. Okay, so this is a little bit more advanced. This is a FOB that Euler set up. You can set respawns inside of here. I'm not sure what kind of wizardry got him to allow them to spawn on top of here, because look, it's not on the, it's a little higher on the z-axis, but I'm sure there's some sort of raycast functionality or whatever that allows it to do that. Anyway, not relevant. So, yeah, there's ammo boxes here hidden in. You put the line of code in there, so that means you can spawn the custom composition with all this. Only issue is sometimes when you spawn these kinds of things into a map, the code doesn't save in that. So that is potentially a problem, but everything else should be working properly. In fact, I'm like Euler knows ways, knows far more ways doing the editor than I do. To be completely frank, he has these stores set up to open and stuff like that. So if you want a little bit more details on how to actually build buildings or bases, you might want to talk to him, or he might make a video in the future about it, or I'll help him with a video. Maybe I'll make a video when I'm better at it. But I'm adding this to the map template utility map thing because if you need a base for us to be on, you have it. It's right here. Okay. Then we're going to the elephant in the room, acclimator. So very important for the acclimator, and this also kind of applies to the FOB. I should probably explain this when I was talking about the FOB. So you want to make sure that when you're spawning these two things in, you have toggle vertical mode with this solid line here. You want to have surface snapping with this line here. If you don't have it like that, say I'm going to spawn in this base over here, copy, paste, turns out a little weird. You don't want that. See, vertical mode, turns out a little weird still, but mostly okay now. We actually did vertical mode. Surface snapping make it. Yeah, surface snapping might not be as big of a deal. I just like to leave it off. I believe surface snapping affects. My apologies. I'm a little pedantic sometimes. So surface snapping, if I want to move it around, say or rotate it. Shove it into the ground, move it. Okay, never mind. I'm dumb. Okay. Anyway, right. So the same applies to the acclimator. If I'm gonna say I want to copy the whole acclimator here, and if I don't have vertical mode on, oh, that's pretty bad. The ship kind of dropped its pants. Not very good. So yeah. Remember that. Also, try to avoid rotating this if you can. If you are going to rotate it, I recommend you double check if everything's hunky-dory in here, because I've had issues where parts of it have become attached. Anyway, acclimator, let me explain. So the acclimator, you might be asking, why can't I set respawns in the acclimator? Same thing I mentioned before. Acclimator is on the z-axis. It's very high up in the air. You can't set respawns up in the air. There is a scripted way to do that, but not through Eden Editor. That is a bit of an advanced thing, and that is currently outside the scope of my knowledge and anyone else's knowledge at the moment. So what are these down here? These are where people spawn. So if you want to, I don't recommend ever, by the way, going to play. Always go play in multiplayer, because if you play in single player, what's going to happen is you're going to spawn with a bunch of AIs, and that's going to be really laggy and horrible. Don't do that if you want to test. If you do test, you will be this person over here. I believe you if you you can change out people. Anyway, so these are where people spawn. It's all nice and organized. They all have their permissions properly set. Don't really fuck around with this. Don't delete any of these or recopy them or anything like that, because if you do, you're going to mess up the order in which they appear in on the new game tab or whatever. So don't do that. Just leave this alone. I actually have a composition where I just have these on their own. If you want to go through the tedium of trying to select them and do that, you can. If you're not willing to, I may provide a map in the future with just this roster on it, so that you can copy it without the acclimator if you so choose. Same thing as the FOB. Acclimator has little, also set up by Euler, by the way, credits to him, has little weapon crates in it for people to get weapons in, working doors, the works. Yeah, it's nice. It's cool. All these lats are not scripted. I believe there is a way to script them outside the MCC menu stuff, but I haven't figured it out in the editor. Or maybe I have figured it out. I just am lazy. Either or, irrelevant. Lats are here. They're queer, and they're good to go. They shouldn't blow up. They should function correctly, and they're actually already made invulnerable, so the Zeus doesn't have to set them for that. I believe they're invulnerable. Let me double check that before I... Yeah, damage is disabled on them, so until the update comes out, they're good to go. Okay. So, you might be asking yourself, well, that's nice, but what do I actually have to do to set up a map? Well, let's just start one up. Let's say, oh hey, there is no map for geez, whatever this is. Man, what a map this is. No, that's too many trees. I don't want to mess with that. Blood Gulch. Alright, let's make a map for Blood Gulch. You go, Mungus, there's no map for Blood Gulch. I really want to make one for Blood Gulch. Well, that's very specific of you, friend. So let me teach you how to make that map. If I can figure out where Blood Gulch begins and ends here. There we go. Okay. Jeez, this is bigger than I thought it was, actually. My draw distance might be too low. Yeah, my draw distance might be crap right now. Anyway, irrelevant. Okay, so something you want to do before you even put some stuff in the ground. You're going to want to go to Attributes, General. Want to make a title, set yourself for an author. DLC, uncheck that, make sure it's set for none. Independence Allegiance, set like that. Uncheck binarize the scenario file. That makes it so that there's any bugs, Cruzy or me or someone else can debug the scenario and figure out what's going wrong. Loading screen picture, if you want to mess with this kind of stuff, you can. If you hover over these tabs, typically they'll tell you what they are, what they describe. There's some documentation on them, not all of them. You want to not really mess with all this stuff. Yeah, most of this stuff you don't have to worry about. Init, don't worry about that. Okay. Then you want to go to multiplayer. Cooperative mission. Not sure if that does anything necessarily, but all of our missions are set that way, so let's not, rock the boat. Disable enabling AI. Respawn on custom position. That is what enables the respawn points mentioned before. You can uncheck show respawn counter, but there's no benefit or deficit to doing it or not. Leave all this revive crap alone. Tasks, leave that alone. Alright, then you want to just Nothing in performance, nothing in environment you have to worry about. I mean, you can mess with environment, but there's no point in doing so to set up a map. Okay. Now that you have that set up, you want to do, as I was describing before, you want to make sure all this is set correctly. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Then you want to begin spawning in the stuff you have to spawn in. So, acclimator, let's spawn that in. Raise it up. Make sure we inspect it to make sure nothing is breaking or broken. Because if you don't notice it, everyone will, and they'll be really confused why you didn't notice something, like half the acclimator being broken or inside of itself. Everything looks okay, great. Okay, then you want to set up the modules. For this specific thing, if you don't want to set up an FOB and you want to utilize what already exists in the map, that's perfectly acceptable. It's up to you in that regard. And as you can see, well, as you can't see because you kind of have the acclimator in the way. Let's move that. As you can see, even though you can't see the respawn modules because we selected them while we were in the map mode before, they have spawned with the rest of our modules. That's great. If you ever want to specifically place respawns, say inside of a building or something, this is your camera. So say I wanted to put the respawn inside this building, no problem. Just be very specific about where you put the respawns. And then you can go, oh yeah, that's about right. Then you're good, everyone should respawn in this building. Okay? But you're not done yet. You might think, okay, well, I'm done, right? No. Important things to keep in mind. Because of the way we use Headless Client, spawning AI on the mission already, there hasn't been a lot of experimentation regarding spawning droids pre-spawned in missions, so don't do it. Vehicles, perfectly fine. So for example, this, bad, don't do it. This, that's fine. No problem here. Some other stuff regarding that, but not very important for an introductory video. Okay, so we're not done yet, though. So we have our mission and stuff, right? However, there's a problem. So these files right here, all three of these files are stuff you're going to need. There are going to be, the files will be available in the Google Drive. However, for the purposes of this video, I'm simply going to demonstrate how to put them in. So all these you can open with Notepad or Notepad++. I use Notepad++ because it's better. So basically this right here, it's a pretty powerful file. For our purposes, it basically enables people to respawn with the gear they died with so that they can more quickly get back to the fight if they died over a silly circumstance or they just need to restock ammunition or whatever. They're using a special loadout and they didn't save it and they're like, oh no, what did I do? It's very FunOps friendly. Init.sqf does some things regarding the vehicle cook-off, and it currently removes stamina. It still allows weapon sway and stuff like that, so no worries about that. And initplayerlocal.sqf deals with that as well. So, I'm going to take all these files, and into our new Blood Gulch map, which should be under NP mission. So, the way you find it is Documents, your regular Documents folder. ARMA 3 other profiles, your whatever name, NP missions. Then you want to go to wherever Blood Gulch is, which we haven't saved yet. Good lesson in that. Uncheck binarized scenario file. NP missions, Blood Gulch tutorial. Here you go. There is a standard dating format and stuff like that. Don't worry about that too much. You can read about it in the Mission Dev Discord channel. But for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to stress out about naming it something specific. So save that. Now we should be able to find it. There we go. Do that. Still not done though. You need a specific program called PBO Manager. Very easy to find, very easy to download. Then when you right-click a file, you should get this PBO Manager. You want to pack it into a blood ghost tutorial, whatever .ppo. Then, right there, now you're done. That's all you have to do. This is the file you actually upload to the Google Drive. You can do that by just dragging and dropping into it. Just make sure it's if you're doing that, make sure it's labeled appropriately. If you're still, after reading the Discord, you're still not sure how to label your files, just talk to me, or I'll put it in the video description or something. I just really don't want to go into it right now. Right. Alright, so I hope that explanation of how to set up missions was somewhat useful.